They didn't listen when you spoke. They didn't look when you were present. But the moment you vanished, they noticed. They felt the absence, not your presence. And that tells you everything about how the world works. We're raised to believe that being always available is a virtue. Be there for people, they say. Stay loyal. Be consistent. But here's the truth. People don't value what's consistent. They get used to it. What's constant becomes invisible. And the more they expect you to stay, the less they feel they need to earn you. Society rewards noise, not power. They tell you to explain your to stay and negotiate your worth. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. True power doesn't plead, it doesn't announce, it withdraws. It creates silence and forces others to sit in it. You can scream, you can beg, you can overgive and still be overlooked. But walk away? Walk away without warning, without flinching, without anger. And suddenly your silence echoes louder than your presence ever did. That's when they start questioning everything. What happened? Did I go too far? Why doesn't he care anymore? Because now the power has shifted. Now they are reacting to you. And that, right there, is control. The truth is uncomfortable. You gain more influence in your absence than you ever had in your presence. Because the human mind values what it fears losing, not what it thinks it owns. Most people are addicted to control. They love when they can predict you. They love when you always answer. They love when they know where you'll be, what you'll do, and how you'll react. But the second you go silent, you break their control. You become unpredictable, unreadable, unavailable. You stop being a servant and become a standard. So here's the Machiavellian truth. Stop proving your worth. Remove it. Don't try to be seen, be missed. Don't demand attention. Command it by vanishing. By the end of this video, you won't just understand why walking away is powerful. You'll know exactly how to use it to your advantage, but only if you watch till the end. Ensure you hit the subscribe button and subscribe. Like, comment, and share to support us to do more. You're not just walking away to get attention, but to command respect. Because real power doesn't beg to be noticed. It's felt in the silence it leaves behind. People don't crave presence. They crave what they think they can't have. This is the paradox of modern attention. The moment you're always available, you become invisible. The moment you step away, you become magnetic. Why? Because the human mind isn't wired to value abundance. It's wired to chase scarcity. We are addicted to the thrill of earning someone's focus, not receiving it without effort. When you're always present, always texting first, always explaining yourself, you become expected. You're no longer a person. They reduce you to a function. You serve their ego. You confirm their worth. And when that role becomes too familiar, they start to believe they're above you. That's when you see it. The delayed responses, the disappearing respect, the one-sided conversations. They think they've got you on a leash, and they don't mind pulling it. But here's what they didn't expect. You stop showing up. You stop feeding their addiction. And suddenly, the silence becomes unbearable. This isn't about being petty. This is about resetting value. Machiavelli understood that power thrives in mystery, and attention, when given too freely, kills that mystery. Let them feel the emptiness. Let them wonder why you stopped talking. Let them question what they did wrong. Because once you remove your energy, you force them to confront their own behavior. And most people can't survive that mirror. You see, they weren't addicted to you. They were addicted to the way you made them feel about themselves. Once that drug is gone, they either level up or fall apart. This is the new rule. Don't announce your worth, remove it. Don't argue to be respected, disappear until they feel the loss. Because when you're gone, two things happen. 1, the shallow forget you. 2, the wise regret losing you. And that separation, that space, it becomes the stage where your power performs. The strongest move you'll ever make isn't what you say. It's when you decide to say nothing and leave. Not to manipulate, not to punish, but to protect your value. Because in a world obsessed with attention, you become powerful the moment you stop seeking it. You stop chasing, and they start remembering. The power of detachment. Emotional distance is control. Attachment is the leash they use to walk you like a dog. The moment they sense you're emotionally dependent, they tighten their grip, and suddenly you're no longer responding from logic, you're reacting from need. That's the trap. Detachment isn't about being cold, it's about preserving your power. It's about maintaining the ability to walk away, even when your emotions scream to stay. Machiavelli would say, never invest in anyone more than you've invested in yourself. Because once you do, you've handed them the weapon that can destroy you. You see, people confuse emotion for loyalty. They think the more they feel, the more they must stay. But feelings without strategy? That's how kings become slaves. Detachment is the weapon that silences manipulation. When someone realizes you're not emotionally dependent, they panic. They can't guilt you. They can't bait you. They can't control you. It's not that you don't feel, it's that you don't reveal. You keep your center. You maintain your silence. You let them wonder. Detachment isn't about ignoring people. It's about not allowing them to define you. It's choosing logic over longing, control over chaos. You don't flinch when they leave. You don't beg when they withdraw, because your identity was never built on their presence. The most dangerous man in the room isn't the loudest. It's the one who feels deeply but is owned by no one. No validation required. No emotional leash around his neck. Just quiet strength. This is where your power sharpens. You don't need closure. You don't chase clarity. You don't explain your silence. You simply step back and let absence do the talking. And here's the twist. When you master detachment, you don't lose people. You filter them. The weak leave, the manipulators reveal themselves, and the strong adjust to your standard. So if you want respect, detach. Not to punish, but to protect. Because in a world addicted to reaction, the man who feels but doesn't flinch dominates. The moment you walk away, everything changes. They don't feel your presence until it disappears. Suddenly, silence becomes louder than all the words you use trying to be understood. This is the reversal. When you leave, calmly, without anger, without warning, you shift the emotional burden onto them. You stop chasing, and now they are left chasing meaning, chasing closure, chasing what they once ignored. People don't appreciate clarity. They respond to confusion. And your silence? That's the most confusing sound in the world. No contact, no explanations, just controlled absence. It unsettles the ones who thought they had you figured out. The second you stop reacting, you force them to react to your lack of reaction. This is power. When your departure becomes the mirror they can't look away from. Most people argue, they beg, they stay too long, hoping for a change. But the Machiavellian man doesn't flinch. He doesn't announce his exit. He doesn't give closure. He just leaves and lets the silence speak for him. Because silence doesn't beg, it accuses. And the accusation is simple. You weren't worthy of my presence. That's when they start to unravel. They wonder if they misunderstood your value. They question their behavior. Their mind replays your absence like a haunting melody they can't unhear. Not because you explained yourself, but because you withheld yourself. You gave them one thing no one can fake: the void. You made them feel what life is like without you in it. And that lesson hits harder than anything you ever said. Because now, your memory isn't tainted by desperation or emotional explosions. It's clean, sharp, mysterious. Let them sit with that silence. Let them wonder why you disappeared. Let them question everything they once took for granted. This is the Machiavellian reversal. You don't punish them with presence. You punish them by removing it. Because when you walk away, you're not just creating space, you're creating power. The weak stay, the strong leave, 400 to 500 words. Weak men beg to be chosen. Strong men choose themselves and walk. The majority stay where they're barely tolerated. Not out of love, not out of loyalty, but out of fear. Fear of loneliness, fear of not finding better, fear of silence. And that fear is what makes them weak. But the man who walks away, he's feared because he fears nothing. He doesn't plead to be seen. He doesn't cling to comfort. He doesn't stay in places that insult his value. He leaves, silently, calmly, without negotiation. This is the Machiavellian divide. The weak stay in hope. The strong leave and decide. When you walk away with composure, you send a devastating message. They didn't matter enough to fight for. You remove your attention like a king withdrawing favor. No speech. No breakdown. Just the echo of your absence growing louder with every passing day. People remember those who leave with silence more than those who stay with noise. The weak ask, why don't they value me? The strong know the answer and refuse to participate in disrespect. Machiavelli would put it simply, a prince does not negotiate his value. He asserts it, then leaves when it is not honored. He does not sit at tables where he is inspected like a beggar. He builds his own halls and lets others knock on the door when they realize what they lost. And when they finally come looking, he's already gone. Unreachable, unbothered, unavailable. That's the difference. The weak want to be liked. The strong demand to be respected. And if respect is not offered, they vanish. Not out of ego, but out of principle. This is the power move most never dare to use. Walking away isn't emotional, it's strategic. It says, I don't need you. I was just giving you access. And once that access is revoked, they'll understand too late that you were the one setting the terms all along. Remember, power doesn't announce its departure. It makes them feel it. Predictability is death to power. The moment they can read you, they stop respecting you. This is the silent truth behind attraction, attention, and authority. What's predictable becomes disposable, and what's mysterious becomes magnetic. Most men give away their rhythm. They respond instantly. They explain too much. They show up on schedule like obedient servants of approval. But the man who can't be read, the man who moves in silence, appears when he wants and disappears without warning, that man is unforgettable. He doesn't offer explanations. He doesn't repeat himself. He doesn't reassure them with patterns. He breaks those patterns strategically because unpredictability is a weapon. It makes people alert, anxious, focused. It keeps your name echoing in their mind, even in your absence. Machiavelli understood this. If people can predict your actions, they can control you. But when they don't know whether you'll engage or vanish, they're forced to adapt to you. And in doing so, they surrender control. Controlled unpredictability is not recklessness, it's dominance. It's the psychological equivalent of holding the steering wheel without saying a word, while they guess which way you'll turn. Be warm, then distant. Be interested, then silent. Show up powerful, then disappear when they expect your presence. Because when they can't figure you out, they can't stop thinking about you. They overanalyze, they assume, they wonder, and in that wondering, you win. Understand this. Power isn't just in what you say, it's in how often you withhold it. In how often you disrupt the expected flow. In how you remind them without a word that you are the variable, not the constant. Be the man they can't decode, and you'll be the man they can't forget. You are always there, showing up, being reliable, making it easy for them to access your time, your presence, your energy. But they didn't look at you, they looked past you. Because consistency without scarcity becomes invisible. And then, you left. No final message. No emotional meltdown. No performative goodbye. Just silence. Just absence. Just a void where certainty used to live. Now they feel you louder than they ever heard you. Now your presence, which they once ignored, becomes a phantom that haunts them. They don't miss your words. They miss the effect your silence creates. This is the final Machiavellian truth. You don't have to prove your worth. You only have to remove it. Because when your presence is a given, it's devalued. But when your presence is taken, it becomes sacred. Too late. They try to backtrack, revisit old conversations, reframe history in their minds. Maybe I misjudged him. Maybe he wasn't weak, he was watching. Maybe he wasn't too emotional, he was just too patient. But the moment has passed. You've moved on. Not with vengeance, not with pettiness, but with terrifying clarity. You don't want to be begged for. You don't want apologies. You want respect. And that only comes in your absence, never your presence. And here's the cruel irony they now live with. The man they once dismissed has become a symbol of something they can't have. You were once background noise. Now you're the silent echo they can't drown out. This is how power works at the highest level. You're not louder. You're not angrier. You're just gone. And your absence says everything they refused to hear when you were still speaking. Let them sit in it. Let them feel what it means to lose access to someone who never needed them in the first place. That's how kings walk away, not to be chased, but to be remembered. This wasn't motivation, it wasn't therapy, it was psychological warfare. Every second you beg, explain, or wait, you train them to undervalue you. But every step you take in silence, every time you walk without flinching, you reprogram their mind and reclaim your power. So here's your next move. Walk away from anyone who treats you like an option. Walk in silence. Walk with certainty. And when they finally look up, make sure you're too far ahead to notice. Subscribe if you want more than empty inspiration. Subscribe if you want ruthless clarity, silence as weaponry, and strategic dominance. Because in a world where most are afraid to leave, the one who disappears without explanation becomes unforgettable.